Welcome back to another episode of How to Survive Survival. I had the immense pleasure of having a conversation with Dr. Rob Newsom, who is actually I don't know. I like to record these after I have the conversation, and I'm just always like kind of left speechless after but especially this time. So I'm trying to gather myself. But today's conversation with Dr. Rob Newsom, who is a former Navy captain who served for 30 years in the United States military. He was a strategist who helped shape national security at the highest levels, including serving in the White House military office, supporting the President of the United States. He's built organizations from the ground up. He's worked across intelligence, operations, strategy, and spent his career solving some of the most complex challenges in the world, like, from an American perspective, how to keep us safe. But the work that matters most to him now, that he shares with us on How to Survive Survival, is about hunting cancer. And so he's a cancer survivor and the force behind #SwarmCancer, a movement focused on building real, tangible support systems for the special operations community, in particular, a group disproportionately impacted by cancer. So we spend a lot of time talking about his work in the area of genetics, raising money to help cancer patients, especially in the veteran community. And then on the softer side, more about what service is and what it means to him in the aftermath of his own cancer journey. So without further ado, I welcome Dr. Rob to the show. Hi, I'm Jessica Buchanan, and this is How to Survive Survival. This podcast is about what comes after the crisis, after the moment that changes everything, after you've done what you had to do just to get through. Each week, I sit down with people who faced hardship and made a deliberate choice about what to do with it. People who've turned pain into purpose, who found a way to make meaningful contribution because of what they survived, not in spite of it. Because survival isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of who you become next. Welcome to the show. I feel a little awkward because I feel like I shouldn't just call you Rob, but
Please do.
I don't know what else to say. I find myself in this situation a lot when I meet service members and veterans. But anyway, Rob, thank you so much for joining me on How to Survive Survival today.
I'm thrilled to be here, Jess.
So why don't you start us off and just give us, if you wouldn't mind, just a quick overview of your very high profile career in service to the United States military.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to. I spent 30 years in Navy SEAL teams. I went to the University of Kansas ROTC program. When I graduated and was commissioned, went straight into SEAL training and then to SEAL Team 5, some time in the boat teams, back to SEAL Team 7. And my CO position was with the Special Reconnaissance Team. As a brand new, in the Navy, they call it a plank owner when you get to establish the first organization, kind of hearkening back to ships, and every crew member had title to a plank on the ship. And so I was a plank owner at Special Reconnaissance Team 1. And this is we started working 2005, so it was 2005 to 8. We were the first special reconnaissance team on the West Coast, and our job was to take all of the military's intelligence capability and create a targeting engine for the SEAL teams. So we would create small units that were attached to the SEAL teams and actually did everything from signals intelligence, human intelligence, sensors, and all sorts to pull it all together. And we realized that we were time late in Iraq. Our success rate, what we call the jackpot for kill capture missions, was about 35%. The enemy was just operating at a much faster pace. Even when we went to the right place, they were no longer there. And so we created this targeting engine of all of the Navy's intelligence capabilities, led and organized by SEALs, attached to a SEAL team. And 4 years later, our jackpot rate was 96%. So a dramatic
Wow.
change in
Yeah.
the way we do business. And that's a testament to not only the special reconnaissance teams, but every SEAL team had to integrate that into their battle rhythm, into their operations, and their operations fed the machine of intelligence. So it was a great symbiotic relationship. So that was probably the highlight of
Mm,
my time in the teams. I also they when I retired, they called me the strategic SEAL. I spent a lot of time in strategy, both as leading the what they called the N5 department, strategy and policy department at our
mm.
headquarters. But I also spent time at U.S. Special Operations Command and their strategy division. And I finished up my career at U.S. Southern Command as a commander's action group. It's kind of a small think tank for the commander. And it was there that I was diagnosed with cancer. We can talk about my cancer journey a little bit, but I'll pause there to see if you have any questions or comments on kind of the SEAL career.
Well, I mean, I think I always go back to the very beginning, and that's just how my brain works. But what was it that made you want to become a SEAL and serve in that way? I mean, there are lots of different ways you could go about military service. This sounds just like, I mean, I can't wrap my brain around it because my brain doesn't really work that way. But as one who has greatly benefited from strategy and operations, I'm just here to say thank you, first of all. But secondly, how does one end up in a career like that?
Yeah, it's funny. I always, there's kind of a traditional career track of
Yeah.
lots of SEAL time, and my career was anything but traditional, and the jobs I aspired to, I never got, but at each of the junctures, I thought, all the crazy things I did prepared me to do
Hmm.
this job.
Hmm.
And so there was some kind of guiding hand. And I remember
Hmm.
the detailer, the guy that sends people, gives them their orders to go places. I was complaining to him, and he said, Rob, bloom and grow where you're planted. And
Hmm.
so that that stuck with me. But the reason I chose the SEAL teams originally, it's a funny story. We were every midshipman, whether the Naval Academy or ROTC, they send you to a 4-week career orientation cruise. You spend time with every part of the Navy, including the Marine Corps.
Oh.
So you're with the Marine Corps, you're in jets and helicopters, you're on submarines, you're on ships. And after the 4 weeks, I was thinking to myself, this is going to be a long 4 years because I owed 4 years in the Navy. And nothing really appealed to me.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't have a passion for it. The very last day we went to SEAL training, they showed this old kind of hokey 1970s movie called So You Want to Be a Frogman.
Hmm.
And we ran the obstacle course. And I really felt like I found my tribe. So
Wow.
I went back to University of Kansas, and my executive officer said, well, what do you think, Rob? And I said, well, I want to be a SEAL. And she laughed at me and said, yeah, there's a lot of people that want to be a SEAL. There's not many that are. But I
So
was
did that
fortunate
deter
enough.
you?
What's that?
Or did that deter you, or you were
Oh,
just like,
no.
no, this is what I want?
Yeah, that inspired me. Um, and so I was lucky enough to get picked up for SEAL training and make it through with class 163, and then it was a sprint from there.
And how long did that sprint last?
30 years.
Incredible. I mean, incredible. I guess I'm curious, like, what is something that you're most proud of in those 30 years?
Several things. One is the Special Reconnaissance Team. That was a groundbreaking effort.
Hmm.
Another one that I'm just so thrilled with was when I was the head of strategy for the Naval Special Warfare community, all the SEAL commands. I was tasked with leading the Women in Service review. So at this point in the military, the Secretary of Defense told every department, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Army, to look at all of the combat jobs and specifically say why women cannot be assigned to them. So before women weren't assigned to combat roles. And so the Special Operations Command ran their review. I led the review for the SEALs, and it was absolutely fascinating. And all of the Special Operations Command said, well, there's really no reason why we can't open this up to women. But
Wow.
it was fascinating. I was talking to a Navy Health Research Command researcher who did a lot of work with the Marine Corps, and everybody's familiar with the bell curve and
Hmm.
the bell curve for physical capability, right? For
Hmm.
men, for women, it's shifted to the left.
Hmm.
The average woman can't do what the average man can do. And people were were commenting over and
Right.
over again about that.
Yeah.
And she said, look, you guys in special operations are not concerned about the average. The
Mm.
average does not matter. If you look at the leading tail in the bell curve for women performance, these elite women are outperforming the average man. And so if you
Hmm.
want elite, you look for elite, you take elite and let them perform to their level. And if they can make it in, that's great. So that it was just an interesting time to see science and research
Hmm.
crash into culture
Hmm.
and predetermined expectations of the community.
Amazing. What a cool story. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So let's then shift a little bit. And if you wouldn't mind sharing, I'm sure, life has several highs and several lows if we're lucky, to experience both, I guess. What happened when you received a cancer diagnosis?
Yeah. So I was a senior '06 as Navy captain, and I had a very high PSA test in an annual health review.
Hmm.
And I had no idea what that meant. My physician's assistants at the clinic at Southcom said, hey, you really need to get that checked out. But I didn't even know what that meant. Um,
Hmm.
I went and got a colonoscopy,
Hmm.
and my wife said, no, that has nothing to do with it. And so, and I was turning and burning with the admiral and the front office staff, and so I didn't give it much thought. I was never concerned about, oh, maybe I have cancer.
Mm.
And eventually, my wife was on the phone with me, and she literally yelled at me and said, you can die. Go get this checked out. So
Yeah.
I got it checked out, uh, 12 biopsies, multiple came back, super aggressive, Gleason score of 9, prostate cancer.
Oh my goodness. 12 biopsies. Good
Yeah.
Lord.
It was a long time on that table when they were taking
Wow.
samples. And so
Wow.
I was diagnosed with cancer, and they said, look, this is super aggressive. We're going to go in and take out the prostate.
Hmm.
And, that's the most important thing, to get the
Hmm.
prostate out.
Hmm.
So we did the surgery, 36 sessions of radiation, 9 sessions of chemotherapy, just absolutely threw the kitchen sink at it.
Mm.
And it's been clear PSA tests since then. I get quarterly PSA tests,
Wow.
and they've all been negligible. But
Mm.
the deal with cancer is it's never over. There's
No.
both, especially when you throw the kitchen sink at it, there's lots of side effects
Hmm.
that remain for the rest of your life. Um,
Hmm.
Neuropathy and
Hmm.
leg pain, things are going
Hmm.
on.
Hmm.
And then you also have the specter of it returning
Hmm.
every scan or every
Hmm.
test. You're thinking, well, is this a time that we're back in the fight?
Yeah.
So there's that haunting whisper in your ear. But
Yeah.
that's how that started in 2000. Diagnosed in 2016. All of 2017, the entire year was the battle, the treatments,
Mm.
and recovery. And
Mm.
so, and then I retired in 2018.
Wow. Wow. So I'm curious what kind of mindset you had to deploy during 2017. Well, I mean, I'm a meaning maker, so it's not a far stretch for me to be able to connect that you've spent 30 years strategically, you know, fighting, essentially, protecting. And so, how does that parlay into your own life and your health in the middle of this, like, I mean, really most important war? It's for your life. What
Yeah.
is that like?
Without a doubt, the SEAL training and experience and
Hmm.
reflecting back on the one of the seminal moments of SEAL training is Hell Week. There's so many lessons that are
Hmm.
applied into the worst times of your life.
Hmm.
So I deployed all of that. I took it one day at a time. I I used humor and if it was gallows humor
Hmm.
or not to kind of buoy my spirits and go from one treatment to the next, never looking too far ahead, like, oh my God, that was awful, and I have 34 more of those.
Okay.
It's just one at a time
Yeah.
until you're done.
The only easy day was yesterday, right?
Right.
So walk me then to where you are now and this really groundbreaking work that you
Yeah.
are involved in, that you're leading the way in the area of cancer research as it relates to the veteran community. I'd love to know more about that.
Yeah. Well, it was certainly a winding road. So I retired in 2018. In 2019, I spent a year as a civilian in DOD in the White House, helping to run the White House military office. Amazing group of people, Air Force One, Marine One, Camp David, a great opportunity to spend time in the East Wing and wander around the people's house. After that year, I had had enough of government and and found a really weird and special job with the Philadelphia 76ers, 3 seasons with the 76ers. And then when I was searching for my next job, I kind of stumbled into venture capital.
Hmm.
I That wasn't a home or a tribe for me. And this whole time I started realizing that we have a problem within the military, within the special operations community, that cancer seems to be a
Hmm.
significant problem. I say
Hmm.
seems to be because there's no research to to verify that. And across the military, and especially in special operations, no one talks about their medical issues. No one shares what
Hmm.
they might perceive as a weakness. So
Yep.
when I was diagnosed with cancer, I didn't tell anybody. I told my boss, the four-star admiral, my immediate family, and one friend, and that was it. So nobody knew. Obviously, they could see the deterioration and what looked like a
Yeah.
chemo patient near the end, but we don't talk about it. So it's even harder to understand the scope and the depth of the problem.
Yeah.
But I started to realize we had a problem and I started to advocate. My first thought was, well, there's a lot of nonprofits who support the special operations community. If we just
Yes.
rallied them and convinced them that this was a problem, then wham bam. And it was very difficult because they have their own priorities.
Hmm.
Nonprofits often don't like to work with each other
Yes.
because there's issues of credit and donor base and all
Hmm.
kinds of things that interact. So I I was looking and found Soteria Precision Medicine Foundation, which is an amazing organization founded by two women whose cancer significantly touched their life and who happened to work and live in the genomic space, the technology genomic space and science space in San Diego.
Hmm.
So they started what started out as kind of a concierge service to guide people in precision medicine. Genomics is looking at the DNA and RNA of the cancer and of the person and finding mutations that are actionable.
Okay. And what does precision medicine mean exactly?
Precision medicine indicates that instead of my treatment, which was kitchen sink, right?
Right.
We're going to radiate your lower body.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a poison that will kill, hopefully, the cancer, but it's also going to hurt you pretty bad.
Right.
That's the opposite of precision medicine.
Okay.
And so with
Okay.
precision medicine, through genomic sequencing, they're identifying specific mutations of a gene that we know are actionable. That means that they have found a treatment that will go after that, attack that point of vulnerability, which
Okay.
then would potentially kill the cancer or help the cancer be more responsive to other treatments.
Without taking out your immune system
That's
or
right.
frying
Ideally.
other,
Yeah.
yeah, your insides or
And so
all
what's
the things.
happening in genomics and oncology and AI and medicine is just absolutely amazing. And so we're at this turning point in the history of the emperor of all maladies, cancer, in that
Mhm.
you can you can precisely identify and target their vulnerability, some vulnerabilities within a specific cancer. So it's individualized, it's
Mhm.
precisionally focused on your cancer, on your body, and on the vulnerabilities that we find. So that's what they mean by precision medicine.
Okay. Wonderful. And so is this applicable pre-diagnosis, post-diagnosis, all spectrums?
Well, so when we get into the cancer hunt and kind of the lines of effort, there is pre-diagnosis where we need to do some early screening, but
Hmm.
this genomic sequencing is after diagnosis. So, Rob, you've been diagnosed with cancer. We've taken 12 biopsy samples. We're going to send some of those to Tempest AI, our partner in
Hmm.
sequencing, and they're going to do the sequencing of the RNA, the whole exome, RNA, DNA sequencing of your body,
Hmm.
of the cancer. That's called somatic sequencing. And then they're also going to, we also do germline sequencing, which means your body, how is your makeup, which may
Hmm.
be uniquely special in the way it receives or rejects treatments. And so it's so important
Yeah.
to get
Right.
germline sequencing to understand if you have any genetic markers that we need to be aware of in precision medicine.
Incredible. Incredible. Okay. So you call yourself, or I've seen in materials referred to as the cancer hunt. So tell us a little bit more about that and what that actually means.
Yeah. So the initiative is Cancer Hunt. And, for centuries, cancer has had the advantage and humans
Hmm.
have been the hunted.
Hmm.
Um, at some point, you discover a giant mass and you fight for your life, and often in the past, you would die. And
Hmm.
even today, if you're diagnosed late stage 4, you
Hmm.
have a 10% chance of survival.
Mm.
If you're diagnosed early, that completely flips and you have a 90% chance of survival.
Yeah.
But where we are today, we are turning the cancer fight on its head, and we are hunting cancer. Both
Hmm.
we're hunting cancer through the sequencing and understanding its vulnerabilities, and as I alluded to, we're working on early screening. Um, there's amazing early screening capabilities that are in development, and they're getting better, by the month. Circulating tumor DNA. So when you have a cancer, it sheds DNA that floats around your body. They can take a blood sample and identify cancers that may be in your body. We're also looking at full body scans as a way
Hmm.
to detect cancer early, and there's
Hmm.
other interesting things in the pipeline that will reduce the cost of early screening and
Okay.
expand the capacity to screen it at much larger numbers so we can scale this. But so the cancer hunt is about beating cancer in early and every way possible through
Mhm.
precision medicine, genomic sequencing, AI, the use of technology. But Soteria is unique in that it's high tech, high touch. We have nurse case navigators that will, when we take a veteran cancer fighter on board, we aggregate their medical record. And so the military, you can have your medical record in 6 different places, right? I was seen
Right.
out in town, I was seen in the military, um, I was seen at the VA. And so we pull all that together, do a gap analysis of the record to see if anything is missing and my current cancer plan. So they might say, Rob, your plan is surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. Because of the sequencing, we found these alternate treatments that you may want to consider with your doctor. We don't treat patients. We provide advice and insight, and they're kind of
Okay.
their co-pilot and prepare them for conversations with their care team on the precision medicine or individualized options that we may discover. So Nurse Navigator would identify those options, prepare you for conversations. We also do clinical trial research. So finding those early opportunities to get people into clinical trials
Mhm.
for the most advanced and earliest developing treatments possible.
So, am I understanding correctly that Sotera is a foundation or nonprofit that makes these opportunities and knowledge and advice and support aware to only the veteran community, or is it for the general population as well?
It is for the general population, and so Soteria started out as a for-profit business and quickly realized that the inequality of our medical system was was something they couldn't stomach, and
Hmm.
decided to create a nonprofit. The vision is precision medicine for all,
Okay.
and so we take paying customers from anywhere, from the civilian um, cancer fighting landscape, and those that can pay,
Hmm.
and their payments help subsidize others who can't pay.
Okay.
Now, for military veterans and the Cancer Hunt program, we partnered with the Translational Genomic Research Institute and a nonprofit called TGen, and they're part of City of Hope.
Hmm.
And they have done a phenomenal job of providing foundational seed funding to allow us to support 100 to 150 military cancer fighters in this program. And then we're doing other fundraising to help supplement that, to make sure that we can support everybody. So when we take somebody into the pilot program, some some will qualify and some won't. We don't turn
Hmm.
those that don't qualify for the TGen research project away. So that's an extra burden of funding, and we're raising money for both the Target X TGen study as well as people who don't qualify. But all of them are, the goal is to provide that gap analysis, nurse navigation, clinical trial
Hmm.
research. And then TGen does two things. They will take that genomic sequencing data and do a molecular tumor board. This is where world-class experts sit around the table and dissect the science of your tumor, looking for even less common, less known, more actionable approaches to the cancer fight for you. In addition to the molecular tumor board, they will take all of this and do genomic research related to the potential causes or correlations to the cancer. Many people don't know that the Gulf War, the 1990-91 Gulf War, resulted in the
Hmm.
Gulf War syndrome,
Hmm.
um, a mix of maladies and medical issues that apparently had no cause. It took about 16 years for the government
Hmm.
to enact a law that would take care of these people. In that time, many people died. 31
Hmm.
years after the war, a genomic study a genetic study identified one of the major causes to be sarin gas.
Yeah.
So we bombed bunkers, released some sarin gas, and it caused in a significant way the Gulf War syndrome. So, apply that to the 9/11
Hmm.
global war on terrorism generation.
Hmm.
We think we're seeing a just a large influx of cancers, every type of
Hmm.
cancer, brain
Hmm.
cancers, blood
Yeah.
cancer, solid tumor in every part of the body.
Mm.
And there's the TGen study will seek to identify any common correlations or causes, whether that's radio frequency exposure. During Iraq and Afghanistan, we strapped significantly large radio jammers to
Hmm.
stop IEDs. Well, that
Hmm.
didn't just shoot outward, it shot inward into the vehicles that people were driving.
Yeah.
Maybe that is a contributor to cancer. We don't know.
Right.
That's what the TGen study is about.
Oh, I mean, that's just fascinating and incredible. And I can only imagine the findings that the TGen study is going to come away with that, oh man, are going to help a lot of people and also probably help a lot of people feel maybe absolved in some regard. I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you talk about all of this, and in and of itself, it's incredible work. But all I keep thinking is like, okay, you've served for 30 years. You then spend an entire year fighting for your life, all these rounds of chemo and radiation, and I'm sure a lot of people will listen to this and think, man, Rob, why didn't you just go out and play golf? Like, why didn't you just, go take walks with your dog? Like this is insane. So what I'm trying to get to is what drives you to continue making meaningful contribution to the world? This is exactly the concept that I'm obsessed with in terms of these hard moments that they rock us to the core of our humanity, whether it's a physical diagnosis, whether it's a grief, trauma, whatever it is. And what I'm trying so hard to understand from my conversations with people on this podcast is what what makes a person, you in particular, decide to continue contributing in a way such as this.
Well, part of it is, it's imprinted in me that this call to service.
Mm.
When I came in the Navy, it was to pay for college, and I thought I'd stay until it was no longer fun. And then at some point, when you move away from what you dream of, the operational world, and you start getting into higher levels, you you realize that you are called to serve, and that service is to the nation, it's to the people who fight beside you, and
Mhm.
so that's imprinted upon me, and so while it was interesting to be in the NBA with the Philadelphia 76ers, and it was interesting to work with the VC and the defense tech space, that that feeling of service was significantly missing at
Mhm.
lacking, and there was a void there. Um,
Mhm.
how do you make your life significant and impactful for something bigger than yourself? And so that's the
Mhm.
calling. And then I was talking to an amazing woman who started an organization called Anchored for Good. She's the spouse of a naval aviator who was diagnosed late diagnosis of cancer, and aviators across the military have the highest rate of cancer of any occupational specialty.
Wow.
So she started Anchored for Good to help naval aviators with awareness and support during their cancer fight. But I was talking to her, and she said, until your eyes are open by by an experience, by the fight. You just cannot see and understand what the fight is about and how to help. And so that's part of it. I'm not doing the cancer hunt because I had cancer and want to make my cancer fight meaningful. My cancer fight opened my eyes to everyone else's fight.
Hmm.
And I thought I had a mechanism and an inspiration to try to support them. And
Hmm.
so this is a calling of service to support teammates and fellow veterans who are in the fight as well.
Do you think my mentor in my life and in business and in spirituality, she always asks me these three questions. What life do you want to lead? What business do you want to be in? And who are you here to serve? And so I think about that on a daily basis when I like start out my day and I'm moving through it. Um, do you think we have, and I'm just asking your opinion in terms of like where we're at in society today, do you think we've lost um the understanding perhaps or the drive to serve? Is there, are we lacking in that, or what's your opinion there?
Well, I think it's an uneven landscape. Um, Whenever
Mm,
I hear someone complain about the current generation, I'm find myself on a military base looking at these young people who are serving, and
mm,
I have to think, well, it's not generation Y. These people
mhm,
are putting their lives on the line just like
mhm,
everyone else has before them. And there are people serving in every walk of life at every
mhm,
age. So I don't know if we've lost it as a society, but I think that it's it's easier to get distracted,
mhm,
whether that's from, making money and buying things, or
mhm,
um, social media and
mhm.
misunderstanding what's important
Yeah.
in life. But so I think we can get consumed with the trivial and lose out on what makes your life matter.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that my I'm not a researcher or scientist or a clinician, so I don't know that I can have a hypothesis, but my thoughts around it are such that when we spend the majority of our attention being distracted, we miss out on these really incredible opportunities of purpose driven work or connection or even conversation. And then we end up feeling depressed and anxious because we're not sure what we were made for and we're not sure why we're here in the first place. So my tenet is that it's the purpose driven work, it's the hard things in our lives that have opened us up to see need or opportunity or whatever it is for service that is like the whole point. It's a hard way to go about it, but I do think that that's like kind of the point of life and surviving survival. And so I'm just very inspired and deeply humbled by this conversation with you. I'm grateful for your time. You obviously have a lot going on and a lot of really important things to do. So thank you for taking the time to talk with me. If there's somebody listening who's a member of the veteran community or they're facing a cancer diagnosis right now, how do they connect with you? Can they reach out to you? How do they find out more about the cancer hunt?
Yeah, they can email me directly at robsoteriapmf.org. They can reach out. I'm prolific on LinkedIn trying to get the
Mhm.
word out. They can reach out there. Our website, if they just search Soteria Precision Medicine Foundation and click on the veterans page, they can learn all about the cancer hunt. And if they go to the patients page, they can request a consult, free meeting with one of our nurse navigators who will walk them through. And if you're diagnosed with cancer as a military veteran, please go to us, get a consult, and see if we can help.
Amazing. we'll put all of that in the show notes for anybody listening. So I just want to put you on the hot seat one last question and ask you, what does the concept of surviving survival mean to you on the other side of cancer?
I've been thinking about one being a survivor, and I'd love your thoughts on this. Um, I was talking to a fellow SEAL teammate, also a cancer fighter, and he said, I don't like the word survivor, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're cancer champions.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting. And I've been thinking about the agency or lack of agency. So, your experience as a hostage, other people's experience as a POW, or even being in a horrific plane crash or other
Mm-hmm.
other thing where there's no agency,
Yeah.
that is a kind of survival that is almost all internal, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to fight within yourself on how to
Mm-hmm.
survive that with zero agency to affect any outcome that will
Mm-hmm.
come.
Mm-hmm.
To me, cancer is slightly different, and not saying better or worse experience, but in
Mm-hmm.
cancer, what I want people to understand is you have agency. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to take everything as it comes along and just have an internal fight about, okay, I can get through this. You can make informed decisions to help in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit about being a survivor in cancer that has rubbed me. But to get back
Mm-hmm.
to your question on surviving survival, no matter where you came, and if you came out the other side of an event,
Mm-hmm.
then there is there is surviving survival piece of that. And I talked about the boogeyman that whispers in a cancer fighter's ear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's a part of surviving, and how do you
Yeah.
deal with um, the cost of the fight,
Yeah.
the potential for the fight to come back.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of personal work that has
Yeah.
to be um, undertaken, because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't just happen, unless you're a person that really gives not much thought to anything. You're happy to be alive. You just keep moving
Yeah.
on. But
Yeah.
most of us, there's lingering baggage that you have to
Yes.
unpack and decide what's useful and how to use
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's what surviving survival should be about, is unpacking your baggage and finding what's useful to move forward.
I couldn't agree more. What an incredible conversation. Thank you so much. So much for the work you're doing.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate what you're doing too. It's so important.
Yep. Thank you for listening to How to Survive Survival. If you found something meaningful here, I'd ask for you to subscribe, share, or leave a 5-star review so these conversations can reach others who are walking their own road back. You can learn more about me and my work at www.jessbuchanan.com. And until next time, remember, what happened to you is only part of the story. What you choose to do with it is where your power lives.